Okay, in this last video, and I think this will be my last video for this Todoey app, we're going to add swipability and the ability to delete a particular item. So let's just get right into it. Hopefully this will be a pretty short and straightforward video. So in iOS 14, they've added something, I think it's iOS 14 or 15, they added something called swipe actions. So I know in the app brewery class, they had to get a separate CocoaPods or something to do swipe actions. But in SwiftUI, in the latest version of iOS, there is something called swipe actions. And at a really high level, what it does is it will, whatever item you have over here, it will make it swipeable, and then you're going to have to put a particular action afterwards. So swipe action adds custom swipe to an action to a row in a list, and that's exactly what we want. So we are in a list. You know, we have a bunch of items, and we have our H stack here, which is our button, our spacer, and our checkbox, and we want to be able to swipe action this. So you'll notice that swipe actions has a couple different things you can pass in. So I'm going to hit enter here. So whoops, I'm going to go ahead and see what we have. So you have a couple things you can make changes to here. So you have the edge. So either the right side or the left side, and that'll be leading or trailing. By default, it's going to be the trailing, so the right side of the screen when you're looking at it. Allow full swipe as a Boolean, true or false. If you, by default, it is true, which means you'll notice that when you swipe all the way across and you keep going, it does what it needs you to do. And then finally, the content. So what button or what action or what do you want to see? And so we'll do all the defaults first, and we'll take a look at making some modifications to it if necessary. So we're just going to do swipe actions, and you open up a curly brace, and in here you're going to put in what will happen when you swipe. So I want a button to show up, and the button can have a role. So this is going to be a delete button. So there's a role, and the role will be destructive. Okay, so this is a role that indicates it's a destructive button. You can use this in a list, and it will actually remove the item from the list. So in the Todoey app on the App Brewery course, I think you had to remove it from the array and then reload, but not with SwiftUI. They know that if you want it to be destructive, which is a very common item, that this is, they've now built it in. So it's really easy. We're going to have a button, and we're going to just print, just to the console, deleting item, and we will just put the title in here so that we have an idea of what we are deleting. Title, force unwrap that, and we'll keep that for now. And then for the button's label, so we'll just do a label, we are going to have a label of delete, and the system image will be trash fill. All right, so let's see if this works correctly. Let's go ahead and run this. Okay, so now that it's loaded, let's take a look. So we go to animals. We have all of our animals here, and you'll notice if I drag this over, I have my swipe. When you set the this value over here to destructive, it automatically makes it red, because that's, when you want to do something that's pretty dangerous, you want it as red. And then if you keep swiping over, right, this is this full swipeability, it will delete. And at the bottom you can see my console, deleting item tiger. All right, so pretty neat. Just with one, let's call it 5 lines of code, I have added swipeability into my list view. Now, of course, if I go back, you'll notice that tiger is back again. And, I could check these off and then delete them again. If I go back to animals, they're back again. And this is because we haven't actually removed it from our core data. So we'll do that next. Should be a few seconds. So in addition to printing out that we're going to delete the item, we have our context, right, that we defined up here, right, this environment manage object context right here. So what we'll do here is we'll just say context.delete. So it says specifies an object that should be removed from its persistent store when changes are committed. So we have an object of you have to pass in an ns manage object, which thankfully is this item right here. So if you click on the item, this is a list of ns managed items. So I just pass in the item that we want to delete, and then we have to commit those changes, right? So we do a try and context.save. All right. So at this point, let's run it again. All right, so we have our animals. Let's delete tiger. I'm going to move it over here so you can kind of see the console. Delete tiger. Full swipe, deleting item tiger. Let's go back to Todoey. Go back to animals, and tiger is no longer there. Delete anteater. Or you can, instead of full swipe, we'll just hit the delete button. Delete item anteater. Go back to animals, and it's no longer there. So there you go. At this point, this is really all you really need. I do want to just spend 2 minutes to talk about some of the things you can do in swipe actions. So if you recall, one of the things I said was allows a full swipe. And that can be a Boolean. So I'm just going to delete all of this. So if you say false, allow full swipe, let's see what we have here. Animals. So if it will not allow me to full swipe anymore. Now I'm stuck. I have to swipe and then delete. So if you like this functionality better, you would make that false. Now there are other things you can play with here on the swipe actions. You could, for example, put in 2 buttons. So you could put in another button over here, and we will not make this destructive. You know, we could maybe say mute. Maybe you have a item that you need to mute. Maybe it's a notification, right? Muting, and we can, you know, we'll have to. Let me think if I can. Let me see if I can think of an image that might make sense. Let me try looking one up real quick. Okay, bell/fill, something like this. All right, so let's run this again and see what happens. So go to the animals again. We swipe. Now you see there's 2 actions, right? You see the delete and this like mute button. Now obviously I can click on this and it'll say muting cat, but there's nothing that it does here. So so that's one thing you could do. The other thing you can do is if you wanted the button to show up on the front, but we'll just start over here. The other one is edge, right? So you can do something like edge. Right, and edge will take either a leading, right, the leading edge, this side, or the trailing edge, this side. So let's do leading. By default, it is trailing. So let's take a look at it and see what happens when I do this. So back to animals. I can't swipe this way anymore, but I can swipe this way. So I've now moved the trash can to the other side. And so there are things you can play with here. I'm going to take out this leading edge, but I'm going to keep this allows full swipe to false because I think it makes more intuitive sense so that you don't accidentally delete something. So here you go. Here's our final product. I know in the app brewery class they start coloring this and doing some gradient. I'm not going to get into that. That's something I think is really fun that you could play with just using Google and ChatGPT and other resources online. But at this point, you really do have a full functioning to-do app that you can show off to your friends. You can load it on your iPhone or anything like that. And at this point, I think I appreciate everybody making it this far. I know this was a lot of videos and a lot of courses, but I was trying to follow along with the Aperary class for my friend's sake, and this is kind of where we are. All right, thanks everyone.